Career high for Kobe, 67 points.
Well, there's 70.
Kobe's got the Laker record.
It was 20 years ago today as I record this on January 22nd, 2006, when Kobe Bryant did something that nobody thought was possible to do.
You have witnessed the second greatest scoring performance in NBA history. Kobe reverse layup to score. Kobe, another tough shot.
George W. Bush was the president of the United States. Defense in the NBA not only still mattered, it was at an all-time elite high. The average NBA team that season scored 92 points per game compared to today, where three-pointers are shot ad nauseum. Back then, driving to the paint or throwing it in for your center or your power forward to do post moves was still the focal point of the game. And if you weren't a two-way player, you couldn't get on the court. It was the day when he took the showcase away from the NFC and AFC championship weekend and led SportsCenter with a historic performance that hadn't been done at that time in 44 years, and now 20 years later still has not been done since. It was the greatest scoring performance in the history of basketball, and today I hope you're going to be seeing a lot of videos come across your timeline that showcase it, celebrate it, and highlight it. And I want to add this one to the mix because being in my early 20s, starting my life as a young adult, not being able to watch that game on TV, I will never forget sitting in the tiny upstairs bedroom of a duplex that I was renting at the time, refreshing the ESPN.com box score again and again, watching it live as it happened and pumping my fist by myself as I cheered as Kobe went up again and again and again and again, scoring a total ultimately of 55 points in the second half and a total of 81 points in the historic game against the Toronto Raptors in a game where they needed every bit of it. It was a different world, and it's hard to believe that it was 20 years ago today. And in this video, I'm going to show you every bucket from that game, and that part's going to be quick, but the setup to it, I want to showcase a little bit about what was going on in that time, a little bit about Kobe's legacy, and why, for those of you that weren't there, if you're 25 and under, maybe you're 30 years or younger, and you really don't remember it, you don't know the context of how important that game was, I hope you watch this and other videos like it, because you really have to have been there to understand how important that game was, not only for the legacy of Kobe Bryant, but for the legacy of basketball in general. You see, Kobe Bryant didn't come into the league having everything handed to him, quite the opposite. He came in the league as a 17-year-old kid, a high draft pick, yes, but because in the 90s, high school players, regardless of how talented or gifted or heights they were, just weren't allowed to see the court. That's not the way the game was. It didn't matter if you were Kobe Bryant or Kevin Garnett or Daryl Dawkins previously or anybody else. If you were a teenager playing in the NBA in the 90s, if you were among those select few that were blessed and lucky enough to get that opportunity, you were still going to have to earn it. Kobe came into the league as the 13th pick, drafted by the then Charlotte Hornets, and traded on draft night to the Los Angeles Lakers for Vlade Divac. He came into a setting where, while Jerry West, his general manager, strongly believed in him and what he could be in the future down the line, he came in with a coach, Del Harris, that had no belief in him as a player. He came in behind Eddie Jones and Nick Van Exel, that were both all-star caliber guards at that time, and he had to fight for every inch that he got. He had to fight for every playing time, every opportunity, every shot, going against the grain every step of the way from day one. In Kobe's rookie season as a teenager, he averaged only 15.4 minutes per game. The following season, still not being allowed to start on his own team, he made the All-Star game as a starter, in which he once again shocked the world, scoring 18 points in limited minutes in a game in which he was frozen out in the second half and held out ultimately of the game so that Michael Jordan could win All-Star Game MVP in his final season. You see, every step of the way, unlike other players that came before and certainly after him, like a LeBron James, even like a Kevin Durant, where everything was handed to them from the very beginning, where players were traded to make their life and their abilities on the court showcased in a more prominent way, where coaches were fired or brought in based on their skill set. For Kobe, it was the opposite. He was playing for an idiotic coach coach that didn't believe in his game, didn't understand his game, that came from a different era where high school and young players in general shouldn't see the court regardless of what they perform as. It was an era you had to put in the time, and then after you put in the time and you had success, you had to do it again and again and again. The only way that Kobe eventually got into the starting lineup was not because he was named an all-star in his second season coming off the bench for the Lakers. It was not because he repeatedly, in the limited opportunities he had, put up historic numbers for a player of his age and time in the league. It was because of an injury in his third season, which he also came into that season expected to come off the bench, to Rick Fox. Once Kobe got that rare opportunity, immediately had a streak of double-doubles starting at small forward in place of Rick Fox, to the point where it was so obvious he was ready to be a full-time starter. Even Del Harris and Lakers management still couldn't hold him back and couldn't deny it at that point. That was what Kobe's entire career was about. It was about fighting through obstacles and waiting for that moment, practicing harder than everybody else, training harder than everybody else, putting in the hours that nobody else would or maybe could. And then when you did get your opportunity, being ready to seize it and don't let it go, because there's somebody there trying to take it from you, and it might be somebody on your own team or your own coaching staff. Kobe learned that the hard way. He wasn't protected by the media. Quite the opposite. He was attacked by the media, even as a teenager, because he came in at a time with Michael Jordan, who is the greatest player ever to play this game, retiring, where the media felt they needed to protect Jordan's legacy against the new upstart. Then later, he was attacked again by the media as they propped up LeBron James and others to try to denigrate Kobe Bryant's legacy so they could prop up the future from a marketing perspective. Kobe had to fight for everything he got in this league. As the Lakers went on to win 3 consecutive championships and Kobe Bryant began to burst through the mold that was set for him, without the bricks being laid for him at his path and without him having access to the type of hand-holding that other superstars, especially at a young age, receive from their coaches and from their franchises. He had to have internal motivation, internal perseverance, and have the ability to fight through negativity inside and without. He first showcased that in 2003 when he had a streak that at the time, once again, had not been seen since the 1960s and had only been done by one other person, Wilt Chamberlain. In this streak, Kobe scored 40 or more points in 9 consecutive games. It was incredible. This is at a time in the NBA, again, where the average nightly total points scored by the entire team was 92 points per game. And Kobe, during this 9-game stretch, was averaging 44 points a game. That's the equivalent today, where the average nightly scoring per team is close to 117 points per game. That would be the equivalent to someone averaging in the mid 50 points per game for 9 consecutive games today. If that happened today, it would set the world on fire, and it certainly set the world on fire in 2003. But what happened next, the reason that streak ended, is another example of how Kobe was managed, how Kobe was held back, how he had to fight through adversity.
I still continue to do it, right? And then Phil calls me to his office, goes, "Hey, we're starting to lose the big fella." What do you mean? Well, he's not getting the attention. This 40-point streak is starting to kind of take away his fire to prove something, right? So I need you to start dialing it back. I'm like, what? He says, we're going to lose him, and we need him in June. Okay. All right. You have a game against the Clippers. I think I had like 38 or something like that. And I had a chance to score 40 and get 40 again. It was a blowout game. I dumped the ball in the shack instead of shooting a wide open shot. The 40-point streak ended that night.
Wow.
That was it. And that's inside stuff that people don't know.
Opposed to your franchise setting everything up for your success, regardless of how it affects the team, everything was set up against his personal success. He was literally told not to score. He was literally told he had to help the team by holding his potential back. And I can't express to you, when I say that, it sounds crazy, but think about it in your own life. Think about the difference when you try something new that you're not familiar with in your own family or your own profession. Think about the difference if everyone around you is supporting that effort and saying, you're doing great, or you could do this and it'd be a little bit better, and let me help you. Or let's get this person out of your way because they're doing the thing that you want to do, so I'm going to get rid of them so you can do it. Versus as soon as you try, everybody's, oh, no, don't do that, don't do that. The mental tenacity that Kobe Bryant had to be able to fight through that and still succeed and seize every opportunity he got, regardless if he was physically or mentally held back. by those around him in any capacity is why I will forever be a Kobe Bryant supporter, fan, and why he meant so much to me as an individual and as a basketball player. Shaquille O'Neal was coming off of back-to-back finals MVPs. He was the showcase and centerpiece of the franchise. Kobe's role was not to be the star and steal that from Shaquille O'Neal. It was to be a supporting member. At least that's what they wanted. Kobe never wanted that. He never stood for that. And that streak was an example. But one of the biggest mischaracterizations that the sports media landscape has ever lied about is trying to cast Kobe Bryant as a selfish player who cared about stats. As someone that watched nearly every game he ever played during his 20-year NBA career, I can tell you the times that he sat out fourth quarters, the times that he had long stretches after being criticized and attacked by the media or his teammates or his coaching staff, where he averaged double-digit assists for weeks at a time, just to prove that he could. He could do anything he wanted to on the basketball court, and he did anything that the team asked him to do. Contrast that with players like a LeBron James, where they're staying in the game in the fourth quarter in 20 or even 25, 30-point blowout wins just to make sure that personal streak continues. Contrary to the popular media narrative, Kobe never cared about any of that. Kobe cared about one thing: being excellent at his craft, winning championships, having success. Kobe made everyone around him better. He took Pau Gasol, who in the 7 seasons prior to playing with Kobe Bryant had made 2 All-Star teams, no All-NBA teams, now will be a Hall of Famer, and his jersey's retired in Crypto.com, formerly Staples Center Arena in Los Angeles. That's the type of impact Kobe had. He took no-name players like Shannon Brown that were throwaways in bigger trades and Trevor Ariza and got them big contracts and made them stand out. This was partially because of Kobe's own intensity and play and work ethic that rubbed off and helped them on the court and off. And it was also partially because of the media attacking Kobe to the extent that they did, to where when he continued to have success upon success, winning 5 championships, going to 7 NBA finals, leading the league in scoring multiple times, scoring 50 points in 4 consecutive games, scoring 40 points in 9 consecutive games, that credit had to go somewhere, and they couldn't give it to him, right? So they had to give it to his teammates. You would see people the same way that other players that play with or against LeBron James are torn down in this era. You would see players propped up by the media just to hold down Kobe Bryant's legacy. And that all came to fruition 20 years ago today as I record this in 2006 when Kobe unleashed everything. Weeks earlier, Kobe had played a game against the Dallas Mavericks where he scored 62 points in only 3 quarters. The Dallas Mavericks had 61 points through 3 quarters, which, think about that again in today's NBA. That's a normal halftime score. 62 to 61 is a very average halftime score. That was the score at the end of 3 quarters, but it wasn't Lakers 62, Mavericks 61. It was Kobe Bryant 62, Dallas Mavericks 61. He then sat out the entire fourth quarter because, unlike LeBron and others, he didn't care about his stats. He didn't need to go for it. And a lot of people actually applauded him for that, but a lot of people criticized him for that and said, you should have gone for it. You should have gone for something bigger. But Kobe knew he could have that type of outburst anytime he wanted to or needed to. And that wasn't the reason he played, but he'd have another chance very soon. Weeks later, after the media narrative around the 62 points in 3 quarters game, after having entered into a season where Shaquille O'Neal had left the team, and many had blamed that on Kobe Bryant as well, saying he had forced him out, playing with the likes of Kwame Brown, Smush Parker, Devin George, Luke Walton in Kobe's starting lineup. He had a team that needed every piece of offense that he had. The season before, his first season without Shaq, he tried to be the team player that everybody said he couldn't be. He averaged 27, 7, and 7. A very good, well-rounded numbers season, which today would probably be, with today's pace of play, would probably be a triple-double season, because that was an unheard-of stat line for the most part at that time 20 years ago. That resulted in a losing team with a pathetic supporting cast around him, as the Lakers had traded Shaq for a bag of chips. So Kobe went into the 2005-06 season ready to explode. He had Phil Jackson back. They had reunited and had gotten to a better place place where Phil Jackson realized, I need to support this guy because maybe this guy is my meal ticket. He'd been in the league for 10 years at that point. His body was in its physical prime, and he finally, for the first time in his life, had a franchise that fully supported him. Even if they didn't support him with teammates on the court, they still supported him in his efforts. And this was the time to carry this team of Smush Parkers and this team of Devin Georges as far as he possibly could. And on January 22nd, 2006, that's exactly what he did. He went into that game averaging 35.5 points per game. He would come out of that game averaging 36 points per game, down at halftime to the Toronto Raptors, having 26 points at halftime and needed every piece, every bucket. It wasn't stat padding. It wasn't trying to put on a show. It was trying to win like Kobe always did, better than maybe anybody ever has. It was competing. It was slitting Jalen Rose's throat metaphorically on the court. That's what Kobe Bryant was all about. That's what he did that night, and that's what he did for his 20-year career. So on this, the 20-year anniversary of that incredibly historic game, in a game where weeks after outscoring the entire team of the Dallas Mavericks through 3 quarters that he played, Kobe scored almost as many points in a full game as the league average for a team was. Today, I celebrate the legacy of Kobe Bryant. Today, we celebrate this game and we review every beautiful shot that he made in it. And may he rest in peace, and may we remember the legacy, not only as a human being, as a competitor, and a lot of the things people like to talk about, but let's take a moment to celebrate how incredibly fantastic he was on the court, because that's what really matters in basketball at the end of the day. And Kobe, if he was here today, I believe he wouldn't really care too much what you thought about him as a person. He wouldn't care if you liked his competitive nature or not, but he would want you to respect his game. And this video is a great example of that.
My name is Kobe Bryant. I'm 17 years old. I wasn't invited to parties or friendly gatherings on the weekend. So on Fridays and Saturdays, I would go in my rec room with my basketball and basically dribble myself to sleep. And I think that was the best thing that could have ever happened to me, because during those lonely hours in the rec room, I discovered the hunger, the motivation, and the desire to be the best possible basketball player that I could be.
Backhand layup. Kobe's got 28. Kobe, 30 points. Well, Kobe's got his stroke.
Seemingly, Kobe always has his stroke.
Kobe again. He's got 38 points.
Kobe right now is really in a groove again.
And the crowd's starting to sense it too as he builds up to 47 now. 49 for Kobe.
51 for number 8.
Kobe alone, slam dunk. Kobe's got 57. Kobe counted foul. He's got 61 points. Crowd's on its feet for a career high for Kobe. 67 points.
Well, there's 70.
Kobe's got the Laker record. History tonight at Staples Center. Ladies and gentlemen, you have witnessed the second greatest scoring performance in NBA history. 81-point game.